Thank you all. It's great to be here. Journeyed here from Los Angeles. LRW is about a 40-year-old market research consultancy with offices in Los Angeles, New York, London, and Shanghai. And the reason that I've come all the way here from Los Angeles is because the ideas we're sharing today are probably the most exciting innovations that we've been a part of in our 40-year history. What I'm going to be talking to you today about is something that we're calling the brand Proteus effect. Which is a new marketing and branding concept, and that by using that idea along with virtual reality technology, we're able to simulate something we're going to call brand embodiment, the way that people ultimately connect with brands in a non-conscious way, to give us a lens into the future, and maybe even have you questioning the very intersection of brands and co-constructed realities. I have three goals today. We've got 15 minutes, not a lot of time. The first goal is just to continue to connect this audience in our industry with the power of the non-conscious in driving consumer behavior. I don't think we can say it enough. We're evolving our methods and our mindsets, and it is going to be a part of our future to do our craft better. The second goal of today is to introduce you to this virtual reality technology, of which I'm guessing most of you have not had an experience with yet. This technology is ultimately going to change certainly our industry, but it's probably even going to change our lives as it becomes pervasive over the next handful of years. And our third goal today is just to help you connect with this idea called the brand Proteus effect and its implication for marketing and thinking about the work we do as brand builders. So here I've got, I may be the only presenter today who's going to tell you about a brand that's really average. Any of you flown domestically or internationally on United Airlines? It's really average. But yet I'm here, and in fact, I don't know if it's very easy to see, I'm actually wearing a United Airlines t-shirt. And I'm going to tell you a story that shows you how United Airlines is actually a part of me and why that's important. And it's how I'll help you understand the brand Proteus effect. On Sunday, I journeyed from Los Angeles. At 3 o'clock, I checked into my United Airlines app, checked into my flight. I then went to the airport. I then queued up in the United Airlines Elite Flyers line, where I quickly was whisked through and sent through security, where I got to go into the Elite Security line, which moved me through faster. I then wandered into the terminal area where I went to the Red Carpet Lounge, the Elite area, where you get to rest and eat a cracker before your flight. I then wandered to the gate where I got to go into a Group 1 boarding, which is a special boarding for elite flyers, where I then wandered into my upgraded seat in business class, sat back, got some warm nuts and a Chardonnay, and relaxed. And I was no longer jolly old Jeff who'd been changing poopy diapers and picking up stuffed animals at my house 5 hours earlier. I was transformed into Jet Set Jeff, International Executive. Over the last 20 years, I've actually flown 750,000 miles on United Airlines, so I estimate that I've probably completed some portion of that mini drama maybe 1,000 times. And it is actually true that United Airlines is a part of me, despite the crappy service. And in fact, one of my colleagues isn't here today because they canceled 3 of his flights on the way out here. I'm going to tell you, United Airlines is a part of me because it transforms me in a way that I find value, and that is the brand Proteus effect. So let me define it for you in a little bit more of an academic term. Proteus is the Greek god of elusive sea change, thought of as water, very fluid. The word protean often means adaptable or malleable. So the brand Proteus effect is an idea that says there's a phenomena where in the behavior of an individual operating under a brand-enhanced persona actually ends up adapting to conform to that persona. Again, a phenomena wherein the behavior of an individual operating under a brand-enhanced persona adapts to conform to that persona. When in the presence of United Airlines and being frequent flyer, remember 00638599163. I become something more than I am without it. So why should you care? The first thing is this tells us something about the mechanism of how brands non-consciously change behavior. And let me make a distinction. I don't think I'm saying anything new if I say, well, people use brands to badge themselves or to say something about themselves. That's not a new idea. What we're actually arguing with the brand Proteus effect is that brands actually change who you are. When you're wearing Nikes, you actually jump higher. When you have your $1,000 Gucci briefcase, you're actually a more powerful executive. When you're serving your children Nutella, you're actually a more caring mother. It's actually about transforming who we are, but in most cases, non-consciously. The second thing is, now, with this framework, it creates a theory that we can then perhaps simulate and test. And if we can do that, we may be able to better understand how our brands are actually functioning in the non-conscious mind of the consumer. And it's this second impact that led us to the work I'm going to share with you today. So we created at LRW about 3 years ago something we call the Pragmatic Brain Science Institute. And it was born out of seeing the wave of neuroscience, but recognizing we all needed practical methods that we could deploy in our everyday jobs, likely through online or even mobile surveys. And so we connected up with members of our own team, PhDs and PhD dropouts, frankly, in the behavioral and social sciences, cognitive psychology, social psychology, behavioral economics, to try to find methods and tools that could actually be deployable to a wide mass market, ultimately pragmatic brain science. And that led us to connections with a handful of academics, which you can see there in the bottom row, at the University of California, Santa Barbara, which is probably one of the top 10 psychology programs in the world, and at Stanford University. So let me tell you a little bit about virtual reality so you get a better sense of what it is. And I'm going to lead with actually the results of the study that we've conducted. So we were able to actually run subjects through a task, and it was actually a frightening task that I'll explain here shortly. And when we were able to embody them with a brand, that actually changed both what they thought and how they behaved. Virtual reality, we have brought a virtual reality lab here. So there's an experience hall where if you'd like, over the course of the next 2 days, you'll have the chance to actually go through one of these experiences. Virtual reality is very hard to explain, frankly, in 2 dimensions. It takes over a full 360-degree view. You put on a headset it's about a $35,000 headset, and because of that, I would say virtual reality is to a 3D movie as a 3D movie is to a chiseled cave drawing. It is very different in how somebody experiences it. And so our first introduction to virtual reality came in Jim Blaskovich's lab at the University of California, Santa Barbara, where he introduced us to the pit. Now the pit, as displayed here, you put on the virtual reality headset, you then stand on a platform, and you are raised in the air 15 meters. And because your total visual reference is taken over by the software that then makes it feel like you're in an airplane hangar and that you literally are 15 meters in the air, your non-conscious view of what's going on cannot be stopped. They then say, are you ready for more? Hit another button, the floor drops another 15 meters, and you are now suspended up 30 meters in the air. And I kid you not, and you should go experience it. It does not matter that your rational mind tells you, I'm standing on a carpeted floor in Amsterdam. Your heart will race, your palms will sweat, and many people will literally not be able to move their legs. And this is just such a powerful demonstration of the non-conscious. We got very, very excited about that, which then led us to Jim's colleague, Jeremy Bailenson, who's at Stanford. Jim and Jeremy have written a book called Infinite Reality. You want to learn a little bit more about this, you could find this book. But in Dr. Bailenson's lab at Stanford, he's got an even better lab. He's younger, got more money. In his lab, he has pioneered the idea of what he calls the Proteus effect. Not the brand Proteus effect that I'm talking about, the Proteus effect. And what he has studied is that when people experience in virtual reality, when their avatar goes through an experience, that experience impacts them deeply. So for example, if your avatar in a virtual reality setting is made taller so that you feel taller than those about you, you will actually absorb some of the status characteristics of taller people, and you will act with more confidence and status following the experience. If they age you, they can, in ways you don't even know, age your face. So you non-consciously understand that your avatar is older than you are. You will walk more slowly after the experience because your non-conscious mind begins to think it is older. They've translated those ideas into some more creative, not just physical characteristics, but emotional ones. You can do an experiment in Bailenson's lab where you become Superman, and you literally, with your $30,000 headset, are flying around the lab as Superman. And in fact, in some conditions, they have you save a small child. Following that experiment, you'll actually be more likely to be helpful to someone in need in the laboratory setting. They run another one, my favorite. You're in this lab and your avatar chops down a redwood tree. You can feel it. You are swinging away on this redwood tree. The sound system, the woofers and the thing, you hear it creak, a 100-foot tree, and fall and crash to the ground. You literally feel like you just cut down a tree. And they find that afterwards people's paper usage drops because they understand more clearly the implications of killing trees. These experiences are what led us to the idea of, well, maybe brands do a bit of the same thing, and the brand Proteus effect was born. So what we did, using our pragmatic brain science team, working with virtual reality researchers at Cal Santa Barbara and Stanford, and a company called WorldViz, we created an environment where we could test brand embodiment. We don't have huge budgets, but the way that we decided to embody a brand was through a t-shirt. So people enter the lab, they wander into a locker room, they can see themselves in the mirror, they're asked to have their avatar, which they can feel, they reach, they go into a locker and they put on what they think is a random shirt, but it's not a random shirt. They're being assigned one of two conditions. And they're being assigned either the Coca-Cola condition or the Mountain Dew condition. And so they then can see themselves in the mirror. As they move, their avatar moves. And they feel like they are entrenched in this locker room experience. We then give them two tasks. The first thing they do is tell us about themselves using a sort of a physically interactive scale. Tell us about your personality. You, not the brand, you. We then have them complete the pit exercise where they, like I described earlier, elevated 30 meters above the ground and asked to walk across. But the interesting thing that was able to, the data from this supported the brand Proteus effect because people did indeed think differently about themselves and they behaved differently. When people wore a shirt of a brand that they were favorable to, they crossed that pit faster. And then when we actually asked them to tell us about themselves, compared to baseline in a pretest when we screened them 2 weeks earlier, those wearing Coca-Cola surprisingly thought they were more confident and American and traditional. Those wearing Mountain Dew thought of themselves as more adventurous, masculine, more of a leader. So, back to why I'm here today. Again, I think this work is pounding into us all the power of the non-conscious. It's hopefully giving you all a sense of this virtual reality future to come. What you'll be able to experience here is the top-of-the-line technology, a $35,000 headset, $750,000 with the software, but it is going to change. In 2 months, there's something come out calling the Oculus Rift, getting a huge amount of venture capital support. It's ultimately going to take that VR headset. It won't be as good as the $35,000 one, but it's going to be eventually $300 to $500. And when connected with a Microsoft Kinect box, virtual reality is going to become a part of our home experience, and it is inevitably going to be a part of our experience as we take people into future product and brand journeys. This has a significant potential for us in the long term. And then lastly, I hope you find this brand Proteus idea and the difference that it kind of imbues in the way we might think about the non-conscious as useful as you advise your marketing and branding. We've developed a set of tools that allow us to measure these non-conscious aspects. My colleague Jeremy Sack will later today be talking about some of those tools, but we hope that can help propel you all into this future and continue this dialogue as our industry evolves. Thank you.